Earlier this very year, a new versus show called Fiery Fan Fights hit the scene with their premiere episode, Starfire vs. Blaze. And suffice to say, it was pretty darn cool. I loved how they tackled both characters, how they analyzed feats and scaling with a much more nuanced lens, and the fight itself was gorgeously animated. Right now, they're hard at work in their next episode, Sidon vs. Undyne, after a successful crowdfunding campaign, and one of the rewards for donating a certain amount or more was pitching your own matchup idea directly to Joshscorcher, the head showrunner of Triple F. Seeing this, I wasted no time giving him my support, and ended up donating more than enough to pitch 2 different matches directly to him. The other pitch will happen at a different time, but for now, I have the first of them right here for all of you to see. And relax, it's not Kara vs. Sonic.exe. In fact, one of the rules was to not reuse pitches for Death Battle, so even if I wanted to, I couldn't. So with that said, here's my pitch to Fiery Fan Fights on why they should tackle the Devil versus the Snatcher.
Hello!
Hello. I am, 1 minute. Alright. Hopefully this will turn off. Oh, oops. Forgot to actually close OBS. Man, has that been on this whole time? Oh my gosh.
I would do this face-to-face too, but my camera hates me for some reason.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, sorry about the angle. It's just how my camera is set up.
Yeah.
Prop.
I was gonna use my desktop camera, but every time I try to, it just like really hates me for some reason.
Alright.
But anyways, before we get started, are you okay with this being recorded? Because I am being recording this for a future video, potential.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. All right. So before, as you can see, my presentation is up and ready. Just let me adjust something real quick. And
I hope you don't mind. I'm also eating dinner right now, so
it's no biggie. Take your time. But anyways, as you can see, I have my presentation up here, and it starts off with a question: do you like indie games?
Yes, indeed, I do. I recognize every single one of these.
Do you think they should appear more often in Versus?
Well, I think they should, but whether or not they do is a matter of whether or not people will watch it. But I'm assuming you have a good answer to that.
Yes, I do. In fact, there's kind of a following for indie games in Versus beyond just Undertale. Like, everyone loves cramming in Mr. Sans the Skeleton Undertale the Third into every single matchup in existence. But there are more out there that are absolutely applicable and more that absolutely have their fans. And I have one that has quite a few eyes on it, more than I initially thought, in fact. And that matchup is the Devil from Cuphead versus the Snatcher from A Hat in Time. Or as I like to call it, the insidious Imperator of the Inkwell Isles versus the sleazy Soul Stealer of Subcon Forest.
Okay, interesting.
So, the connections for these guys are really simple. Both are supernatural beings that steal souls via contracts. Both are the most dangerous beings in their respective worlds, but despite this, both act more like sleazy salesmen than malicious monsters. The Devil is mainly like that in the show, but the Snatcher is absolutely like that all the time in A Hat in Time.
Okay.
So yeah, real easy to get on the surface, but there's actually something deeper here. See, the Snatcher, while he may appear to be pure evil, actually has a tragic backstory. A long time ago, he was a prince in love with a princess. He was so in love with her that he wanted to buy her flowers. Except the princess saw him and misread it as him cheating on her. And rather than letting him explain himself, apologizing for the misunderstanding, she threw him in the dungeon forever, where he died and became the Snatcher.
Oh, that's rough.
Yes, very rough. And you might think, wait, this girl is crazy. Well, why would she do that? But turns out when you read her diary in you can actually go to where they used to live and read pieces of Vanessa's diary, you'll find that she was actually very obsessive with him. To the point where she saw him eating bacon and really liking it, got jealous of the bacon, and then proceeded to ban bacon from the house.
Yandere.
Yep, very much a yandere. But needless to say, the Snatcher had it rough. But, while it doesn't excuse his actions, it at least provides him with a reason. Unlike the other one, who is literally the devil. Like, you don't need an explanation for the devil. He's evil, he knows it, he loves it, he flaunts about it all the time.
I'm the devil.
Mm-hmm. I'm a real low down, not on the level.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is basically what I would call the indie equivalent to Shigaraki versus Mahito, if you recall that. Both seem pure evil and destructive for the sake of it, but at least one has a motive and a reason behind their actions, while the other just does it because it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, how familiar are you with A Hat in Time and Cuphead, respectively?
I'm very familiar with Cuphead. I'm less familiar with Hat in Time as I should be. I played it for a little bit, but then I got distracted by other games and never got around to finishing it.
Yeah, basically, well, Cuphead and A Hat in Time are super easy to research. A Hat in Time is literally just the game and a couple DLCs. There is some mods that were officially licensed by Gears for Breakfast, who are the developers of the game. But that stuff mainly applies to Hat Kid. Snatcher stuff is mainly constrained to the game and the DLC. So really just a playthrough of all that and you'll be golden. Cuphead has a little bit more than just the game and the DLC. It has the show, which is 3 seasons and a few comics here and there. But it's all really easy to get your hands on. So if you were to research both characters, you would have a very easy time doing so. And as far as the popularity of the characters are concerned, because, you are wholly crowdfunded, you need to make sure that the characters are recognizable and people would want to see them. Well, the Devil and the Snatcher are the most popular characters in their respective games. Well, maybe you could argue the Devil's a bit debatable, but the Snatcher absolutely is. In fact, I'm confident in saying that people remember A Hat in Time for the Snatcher. And he really is the best part of that game.
All right.
And of course, these videos speak for themselves. They have millions of views. This one has thousands, but still a healthy amount.
Okay.
Yeah, so people like these characters, and if you were to tackle this matchup, I definitely think you could hit your goal and then some.
Okay. I'd imagine you'd be more than happy to donate to this one if I actually choose to do it.
Cue the Futurama gif. Shut up and take my money. But now, getting into these characters and what they can do and who they are, we open up on the Inkwell Isles, a seemingly innocent town full of all sorts of crazy cartoons, monsters, and the like. But unfortunately for them, it is also the residence of the Devil himself, who loves to torment the residents all he likes and steal their souls all he wants. Constantly. Up to the millions. I don't know how there are millions of people on this one little island, but But then it all came to a bit of a head when he met Cuphead and Mugman. Whether it's through them losing a game of gambling in the game, or losing a game in a carnival in the show, they came across the Devil, and now they're in his crosshairs. And they've proven to be quite troublesome over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, getting into their basic abilities, the Devil can teleport, he can fly, shoot fire from his pitchfork, he can create multiple fire projectiles and spheres that he can throw. He can also create constructs like winged bombs, magical axes, and flaming chips. This is basic stuff. This is just the basic stuff, though. As far as wider abilities are concerned, he has the gift of transmutation. He can turn into all sorts of creatures, like a giant eel-like dragon, a spider, though mainly his head, a bull, and other stuff like octopi and other things. But the biggest thing he has is that he himself can grow huge, like a full-on kaiju. Like he's just towering up there. We haven't seen him do much as this form, admittedly. Like in the game, he's just kind of standing there and summoning minions and his magical constructs. But in the show, he does a little bit more. Now, as far as other options, he has a few hacksier options, like transforming objects into his own devices to use as he pleases. He can rip out people's souls unless they're wearing a impenetrable, invisible sweater, which was a thing for a while before Cuphead lost it. And he can also age people to dust, like he literally sprays a cloud of smoke from his trident, pitchfork. And whoever gets caught in it is aged to dust. It was a very horrific moment in the Cuphead show.
Oh yeah, I've seen the Cuphead show.
Mm-hmm. He also has a fair amount of minions. King Dice is the most notable one, though his capabilities in both the game and the show are largely unknown. He has his own few minions, and of course there's the imps you see in both the game and the show. But this is mostly optional stuff. I wouldn't expect you to like go full army battle with either of these two. But if you were to go the full army route, this is basically what he's got. And as far as feats are concerned, a lot of his scaling mainly comes from Cuphead, who can dodge lightning, most notably. He can yank on the moon a little bit and also pull the sun up, though that didn't last long. The devil himself has also transformed the whole of the city into an enormous arena. Did this in seconds, so that's a pretty impressive. But the most impressive feat we've seen from Cuphead, that's concrete, is in the comics, where Mortimer Freeze was able to create a storm so cold that it froze the sun. Which is a very impressive, to say the least. Now, there are some people who will argue for stuff like solar system level Cuphead characters, but those arguments tend to be very questionable. Like some have ranged from Hildeberg during her boss fight, the constellations she summons before she transforms, and people will say, "Oh, those are actual constellations," even though they're like the stars are like barely bigger than Cuphead, and they're more or less just PNGs. Other arguments are also from Jimmy the Great during his boss fight, where he seems to have created a pocket dimension within his coffin. But canonically, Jimmy the Great draws power from the astral plane. So, and that starry background is the same as when you meet Miss Chalice in the DLC, and she's poking out as a ghost. So it's more likely that is the astral plane that he did not create, but is instead drawing power from. Yeah, there's a bit of nuance with Cuphead characters and how high they get, but largely speaking, they comfortably sit around the star ranges. At least, unless someone would argue that this comic feat is an outlier.
Yeah, it's I do tend to look at I do tend to look more at consistently reaching something.
But I guess this would be a little more consistent, considering Cuphead did also pull up the sun during this moon feat. But again, he only did that for a limited time. So take it that for what you will. So yeah. So the devil is comparably powerful, but he's not without many of his faults. See, his intelligence tends to fluctuate quite a lot, namely in the show. Oh, sometimes he's very conniving and very sneaky, and other times he's getting fooled by the simplest of distractions. It's literally a roller coaster, or depending on the day.
Well, that's the thing. Intelligence isn't like a flat scale. Like one of the examples I like to use is the character of Twilight Sparkle. Yes, she is very smart. She is very book smart. Smart as a whip, but she is incredibly gullible.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. And Flint Lockwood's another example. Like, he's intelligent, he can make all these different machines, but he's also naive. Extremely naive. But the devil's intelligence has led him to do a bit more questionable things, like vaporizing his finest demons out of pure anger when talking about how Cuphead has wronged him. Like he actually did that once, and it's actually a lot more consistent. Like, he's like Hades in that regard, where he gets angry very often and flames up to disastrous results. But the biggest weakness is that all those cool powers I mentioned are almost entirely reliant on his pitchfork. If he ever loses the pitchfork, For example, in the Cuphead show, when he left it up against a tree, Cuphead got a hold of it, and then he couldn't get it back due to the laws of pitchfork ownership being finders, keepers, losers, weepers. That's real. He lost almost all of his powers, except for his transformations and Flame On. That is all he is left with without his pitchfork. That whole episode was really hilarious, by the way. It was basically a conga line of humiliation for the devil.
So like but yeah, the Cuphead show is really funny.
Yeah, I binged it for a while, and I've rewatched a few episodes, and it's very funny. I really wish it had more than 3 seasons, but what can you do?
Well, I'm glad it you know, it's like better it end on a high note than suffer seasonal rot.
Hey, you hear that, SpongeBob? You went past your movie, and look where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that pretty much covers the double. So let's move on to the Snatcher. As I said, I gave you the Snatcher's backstory. The story very sad. But while this was going on, Vanessa, that was the name of the princess, was actually so angry that she froze her entire kingdom, and many of the residents were killed during that and turned into spirits. But eventually the Snatcher got out and managed to save these spirits, putting them in little new bodies under contract to serve him basically for all eternity, and in return, they get to live, basically. And he did this quite often with any soul that dares to enter his forest. Whereas, if he can use you, he will, but the moment you lose your usefulness, you are dead, basically. But all this came to a head when he met Hat Kid, a little alien girl just looking for her hourglass timepieces and just wanting to go home. The Snatcher thought he could use her, but he quickly came to realize that Hat Kid is the most powerful indie game character of all time. And I'm only half joking when I say that. We'll get to that. But alright, let's get into what he can do. He can... basic powers include the giant flame... I don't know, what eruptions of flame. He can summon blue potions to throw. He can summon his little minions to spin around. He can create apple bombs, and he can also split himself into multiple clones of Hat Kid to insult her. Like they don't do anything. They just go, "This is what you look. You're an idiot, and you smell."
Yeah. He seems a little... Yeah, it's like, well, the Snatcher seems as smart as a whip. He seems a little, childish.
Very childish, but we'll get to that. But other powers include, he can teleport as well as cause shockwaves. He can create illusions. He can grow in size, and his Haxier options include soul stealing and instant death. Like if you refuse his contract when you first sign him, he will... enough times, he will snap his fingers and kill you instantly, and apparently he's done that before where he decapitated his previous little henchman.
Eesh.
Yeah, if you thought Hat in Time is just a cutesy, cartoony platformer, you're only half right. This platformer goes some directions.
So, an indie game, then.
Yes, an indie game. But yeah, let's get into his feats and scaling. Much like the Devil, a lot of his feats come from scaling the Hat Kid. Hat Kid is surprisingly fast, like she can dodge laser beams, and she can pilot her spaceship, which can fly throughout the cosmos. Most notably is the fact that at the time the game starts, her home is still like 5 light years away, and yet she's still a kid. So that spaceship she's piloting must be moving like much faster than light if it'll reach her home planet in a amicable time.
Yeah, but so how does the Snatcher scale to that speed directly, though? Is the question.
He's able to keep up with Hatkin in the fight. Like he can tag her throughout the fight, and is even able to catch her off guard in ways.
Well, it's more of less. So does Hat Kid directly scale to her ship? Is the question. Also.
Well, yeah. At the end of the game, she is seen directly piloting the starship, and she built it herself. By the way, like there are notes in her ship that say that she, I believe, at least I believe that she. It's very strongly implied that she built this ship herself and is traveling the cosmos.
Obviously, but the thing is like, is she, does it? It's like how it does it show her like piloting it while it's going at its fastest? Because that's a very important distinction.
Well, admittedly, the ship doesn't move that much. Much like the most we see of it actually moving is like in the intro and in the end. And while she might have an autopilot system, she seems to have that. She is also able to start it up and rocket into the cosmos at the end of the game. And she's in the pilot seat and she is starting it up and zooming off. So I would say that yes, she can keep up with its fastest speeds, which in turn would allow Snatcher at least MFTL feats. Though if you wanna nitpick it, you could try to make a distinction. Though I would at least give her faster than light speeds. She is considered.
Okay.
But
those are just sort of the things that those are just sort of the things I think about. It's like when it comes to that sort of chain scaling, I gotta be like, wait, hold on, because once you get too many chains, it's like that's when I start getting a little like, okay, wait, let's scrutinize this a little bit. It's just like,
but don't worry, it's not like character A scales to character B, scales to character C, so it scales to character D, so character D to take on character A. No, it's not that situation. It's just like Hat Kid can do this and Snatcher can keep up with Hat Kid. So by that logic, Snatcher must be as fast, at least reaction wise, as fast as Hat Kid. So
it's just alarm bells go off whenever I see chain scaling.
Well, I get the feeling more alarm bells are going to go off with this next one, because there is, in the boss fights of A Hat in Time, there is a phase, a section during each boss fight, well, not each, but most, where the boss in question is turned blue. And that is a sign where you can attack. Ordinarily, just a gameplay mechanic. It doesn't mean anything in regards to, like, actual durability. But then you get the Snatcher.
Sorry, kiddo. Blue doesn't suit me. And I guess that makes me invincible, huh? That's too bad.
Snatcher can literally break the game's mechanics.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's what part of the reason why people love Snatcher so much, that he literally breaks the fourth wall. But believe it or not, this is only the second craziest thing about the Snatcher, because we're about to get into A Hat in Time's power scaling.
Boy.
All right. So, the timepieces are the main collectible throughout the game, and these little timepieces are exceptionally powerful. They are able, just by impacting the ground, they are able to create holes in time and space, which are basically pocket dimensions, these time rifts that Hat Kid has to traverse through to get them back. One timepiece was even able to enter a higher plane of existence, this seems like an outlier if you want to try it, because it's only this one that ends up here. But it is worth noting that these timepieces potentially can enter higher planes of existence. But most notably, the sort of main villain of the game, Mustache Girl, got her hands on all the timepieces. And with them, she was able to transform all of time, space, and reality into the hyperzone. Some people have scrutinized it to be like, oh, no, it's just like multi-solar system or something. But considering that the timepieces, again, can create the pocket dimensions, and can also affect the flow of time, like rewinding it and traveling through time and space, and the fact that there are multiple stars in the background of the hyperzone, it's not a stretch to say that all the timepieces working together could distort the whole universe. Why do I bring all this up, you ask? Because Snatcher not only has access to the shadow timepieces, which are basically exactly the same as regular timepieces, but he was able to recreate every single boss in the game, but stronger, which includes Mustache Girl with all of the timepieces. Which means that he has potential universal plus scaling. And by the way, he did this in his base form. He can also use this power to buff himself into a rainbow form, and also give himself access to other bosses' abilities. Snatcher is busted. Is this a lot to process?
No, it's not a lot to. It's not a lot to process. It's like I'm able to wrap my head around it just fine. It's more of a the stat. It's I'm a little concerned about the Devil's chances here.
Well, maybe this next slide will curb your worries a little bit, because with all this power, you might be wondering how he loses the Hat Kid. Well, as you said, he is kind of childish and especially arrogant. Like, with all this power, it's all gone to his head, and he believes himself to be absolutely unstoppable, which has led him to slip up on occasion. And his contracts can be manipulated to a degree, though this is hardly relevant in the fight, but something I thought I'd bring up. But the big weakness, you know how he refuses to turn blue during the boss fight?
Yeah.
Well, the blue potions he throws can be thrown back onto him, which forces him blue. And when you do that in the game, he's like, wait, did you just color me blue with my own attack? This doesn't count, right? Surely this doesn't count! And when he is vulnerable like this, he actually doesn't seem to be very good at taking damage. Like, he only takes like 8 hits before he's on his knees in pain. So he's kind of reliant on his invincibility, and when you take that away from him, he becomes kind of a glass cannon. Going into the fight itself, what I would want from the fight if it were to happen. As far as, like, the animation goes, I would like this to be hand-drawn, if possible, because, you know, Cuphead is Cuphead, and I think the Snatcher will work really well in a hand-drawn style. And I would definitely like to see a lot of banter between them. Like, if you know, like the Devil and the Snatcher, they are very let's just say they're a lot of fun to watch. So I would definitely love to see them bouncing off each other.
Yes, immediately I can see just a lot. The personality just the personality clash would be quite delightful.
They're deliciously evil. They love it, and I could just definitely see them bouncing off each other really well.
They're both petty and kind of childish, and just. Like their temper, they both probably got tempers. It's just like, oh, it's gonna be that is fun.
Yeah, and as far as like the escalation goes, I imagine they wouldn't be taking each other too seriously at first. Like, they would just be like throwing out their small attacks and stuff until Devil gets the upper hand by turning Snatcher blue, which then causes them to go all out with their powers, and maybe include their minions in the discussion. You don't have to include, like, the other bosses that Snatcher makes and, like, King Dice and his minions, but at least, like the Devil's Imps versus the Snatcher's little minions would be serviceable if you want to go that route. You don't have to, but it can just be the Snatcher and the Devil, but I would definitely at least like to see the minions versus the Imps. And then the fight reaches its climax where they're both kaiju sized. Like, the Devil grows insanely big and is like fiery and really pissed off, and Snatcher's in his rainbow form equally pissed off, and they're just going at it. Yeah.
Yeah. This sounds fun. This really does sound fun.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a very fun magical chaos kind of fight. But miscellaneous stuff before we move on. Track name ideas that I came up with, and also a few people I've seen come up with. My favorite is The Devil's in the Details. I think that's a very fun track name. Deal with the Devil is another good one. Let's Make a Deal, and also Soul Contractor options. And as far as voice actors for the Snatcher and the Devil mainly, if you wanted to include the other minions and such, you could probably just get by with voice clips, like a Death Battle did with Bowser vs. Eggman. But for the Devil and the Snatcher specifically, for Snatcher, are you familiar with Man on the Internet?
Yes, I am very familiar with Man on the Internet.
Then you would know about his very good cover of Your Contract Has Expired, where he sang as the Snatcher, and he does a very good Snatcher impression. You would have to edit his voice a little bit, but because like Snatcher has kind of an echo to it, echoey voice filter, but
that's easy to do.
Yeah, that's really easy to do. And I definitely think that Man on the Alex Beckham would be a great voice for the Snatcher. The Devil is a bit trickier, because, like, I'd imagine you'd go with the show Devil, because that's where the Devil is the most popular.
Yeah, the very sort of faux Tim Curry sort of impression.
Yeah. So you wouldn't need to find someone who gets that kind of range. And as far as I've seen, I think that Raccoon Bro VA, you're already working with him for Sidon. I think he could probably do a good Devil if he wanted to. And not to promote myself here, but if possible, I would actually like to be down to voice the Devil, because I think I can do a really good Devil impression. In fact, I actually have a voice reel of my impression if you want to see it.
All right, lay it on me. This is your time.
My fans, they love me. Hello. And that's game. Ooh, I love it when they are on.
Now pretend like we're cornered. We are cornered!
You don't just get to run away.
Wow, boss. I never saw you let no one escape before.
He didn't escape. He played the game. He lost. His soul belongs to me. I'll get that cup.
Head?
Oh, shut up.
What'd you think?
That is not bad, honestly.
Thank you. But the only thing left to cover would be the verdict, and I'm sure you've guessed it by now. This is not very close, and this is probably the one thing you probably wouldn't like about this fight. There are some factors that can favor the Devil, like mainly like the Snatcher being turned blue, which could leave him open if the Devil can get enough hits in. But by and large, the stat gap is too high, and the sides being turned blue, the Snatcher doesn't have many notable weaknesses, unlike the Devil, whose temper can get him into trouble more often than Snatcher, and the fact that most of his powers are tied to the Pitchfork, which Snatcher is intelligent enough to figure out mid-fight. But
Yeah. And I do think that the Devil is probably smarter in terms of, being able to manipulate the contract, but that is it's like his only two win cons that I can see are like tricking the Snatcher into a faulty contract, which is possible. Also, figuring out the blue potion thing, which is possible, but I feel like that's a trick that it would only work once.
yeah, this is the trick. Yeah, it would only. Yeah. But given that these two are both very intelligent in their own ways, I'm not entirely sure if the contract thing will work out. But like I said, it is possible. But I just think like the stat gap is too high. Like the weaknesses are greatly different, and even though Snatcher wouldn't go for like his insta-win options, like stealing the Devil's soul or like killing him instantly, because he is a sadist, he does prefer to have fun with his victims, I do overall think that Snatcher wins. However, I do think that the pros of the matchup, like the thematic parallels, the pure fun banter, and the clash of magical chaos, I do think that, at least for me, those pros outweigh the con of this not being very debatable enough to where it would still be very fun to do.
Yeah, it's that's the thing about like Stomp matchups. It's like they can still be very, very fun. Like, Omni-Man versus Homelander. Utter stomp, but it was fun just to see them go at it.
Yes, it was. But aside from this, that's all, folks. That's the end of my presentation. Do you have any other questions before we call it a night?
Yeah. Not really any of your questions. It's just thinking about the whole win con situation. Like, yeah, it's like I think for the win conditions screen, if do that, I would probably put like manipulate the contract or capitalize on the blue potion as win cons for the devil at probably high diff, and probably getting the trident, the pitchfork away from the devil as probably mid or low diff. I'd have to rewatch the show to make sure, and just blitzing him is probably again also mid or low diff. I'd have to actually stat it out, but yeah, the win cons are really in the Snatcher's favor here.
It can be seen as a little unfortunate for people who really like the devil, but again, stomp matchups don't always label them matchups being a stomp don't always label them bad. There's always other aspects to a fight that can definitely make them enjoyable. But yeah, if you don't have any other questions, I guess that'll be it.
Yeah.
Well, thank
you. Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'll have another opportunity like in November, I think. But this was definitely fun to talk about with a YouTuber that I look up to.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, and I also appreciate your generosity. It's like if it weren't for people, if it weren't for the generosity of people like you, I wouldn't be able to be doing this.
Yeah, I'm insanely happy that you're able to pull off a passion project like this, and I hope it goes on for a while.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I guess I'll see you around. Good night.
All right. Good night.